and welcome to Mythology Madness. We're just getting started. I apologize for being late today, uh, but I was in a class that ran a little bit late. I shouldn't say the class ran a little bit late. I was late getting ready after class. That's when it really happened. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Today, we're going to do a little Minotaur painting. And let me make sure the camera's good to go. All right, the camera's good to go. So it's been a while since I did a color comp of a Minotaur, so I'm going to knock one out. I'm late tonight, so I'm going to do something fairly simple. And let me go ahead. This is the one I'm going to paint tonight. I'm going to be using a Zorn palette, which is simply black, white, yellow, ochre, and I'm going to use cad red instead of a vermilion. Mr. Black and Todd B40, thank you for stopping by. I'm just getting started. I'm late tonight, so I apologize for that. But we are going to do some fantasy painting tonight, and we're going to do a color comp. I finished a couple of big paintings recently, and I just want to take a break and just knock out some quick color exploration, as well as I want to practice a few techniques that I learned I didn't have down pat the way I wanted on the last painting that I did. Good evening, Mr. Black. Thank you for stopping by and hanging out. How things going? Have you ginned up your kit yet? I'm anxious to hear about it. I'm excited for you. You know, getting into the medium. So, you know, I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to this too tonight. It feels like it's been a long time since I just sat down and did a quick Minotaur. I feel like that is not not good for my spirit. Like I need to be doing Minotaur at least a couple of times a week. Not yet. That's cool. I mean, there's no rush, right? I mean, it'll be there whenever you're ready. I'm just gonna get this masked off real quick, and we are gonna get started. And I'm actually gonna try a few techniques tonight, which if I do it right, it will allow me to knock out two quick paintings. And I have a surprise announcement here in just a moment because I'm going to get this mapped off real quick. I'm going to put a little paint on my palette, and then I got a quick announcement to make. All right, let me see. So that's good to go. Lakeshore Legends, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. So I'm in Florida, and anybody who's in Florida knows that this week is huge for us because this is Orlando MegaCon week. Huge week. I miss being there tonight. I had a table there for several years, and then the past couple of years I haven't had a table there, and in Artist Alley, and I miss it. I really want to get back into the MegaCon show, but I don't have a table, and I'm not going tonight, or I didn't go tonight. They're closed for the night, and I will probably not go tomorrow because I have to work, but I am trying to go Saturday, and hopefully, you know, I'll be able to get out there and have a good time, see a lot of my friends who are in town. They have some tables. So here's my simple palette. It's a Zorn palette. And I never knew that until recently when I was taking a class at the Watts Atelier. Yellow ochre, a vermilion or cad red, white and black. This is what we call a limited palette. And most of my Minotaur paintings, the color comps like this, I do a limited palette. I'll pick one or not one, but I'll pick two or three colors, or maybe one. Sometime I may just do one color with black and white, and that may be something cool to do. Just one color and black and white, and is limited in the fact that you limit yourself to what's on the palette or what you use, and it really makes you explore um, of color value, and it's a great way to start out. Anybody who's interested in becoming a better artist, I can't affiliate online courses, super affordable, and they are fantastic. The videos go anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour of instruction. You can watch them as much as you want. It's pretty fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and put a wash down, and I think I'm going to go with a, what does this guy look like? He looks kind of rocky. Actually, I'm not even going to go with a different color. I'm just going to go with a wash of black and white and gray. I don't think I want to do that, but I'm going to do it. I haven't done that before, so I might as well try it. Just a simple wash of black and white. How's everybody doing tonight? What's on the agenda for the weekend for people out there? I just told you I have to work this weekend, but other than that, I will try to get over to Orlando MegaCon. What's on everybody else's agenda for the week? One of the techniques I want to try tonight to get a little bit better at is blending. Oh, sweet. Sketch cards are fantastic. That they're so much fun. I really enjoy doing them. As you probably know, anybody who sees me on here knows that I love doing sketch cards. This weekend, I don't know if I'm doing sketch cards though. This weekend coming up on Sketch Card Saturday night, I think I'm going to do some 9x12 pen and ink colored colored pictures. I'm in the mood to do some full drawings. I did a portfolio purge a couple of weeks ago, and I cleaned out, got rid of, sold, auctioned off, however you want to put it, a lot of artwork that was in the portfolio because I wanted to make room for new stuff. So there's my gray wash. I'm always so sloppy with it, and I just splashed paint all over my iPad. Uh, um, and that's a little bit lighter than I thought it was going to be. I need to add a little black. So I want to start stocking the portfolio with new pieces, new finished pieces, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So I think I just need a topic. My go-to is always Batman, but I don't really want to do Batman. I want to do more Arcane show stuff, especially with the new season coming out. That's the kind of gray I wanted in the wash. That's the gray I wanted. So I've been thinking about doing Arcane just because the Arcane universe is so colorful, so dynamic. I love the way the art is. You know what? Were you the one that asked me before about the Teenage Mutant Turtle stuff? Because I have not done that, and that might be something cool to do. Someone recommended, I don't know if it was you or someone else, that I do TMT Ronin, and I think that would be pretty cool. That might be a few good sketches to do. and maybe come up with some good stuff there. That's a good idea. I'm going to put that in the list. Okay, let me put that down. I'm going to make a note of that right now. Saturday TMT Ronin. Done. Saturday for sketch cards. Saturday night we're going to do TMNT Ronin, and I'm going to go for 2 9x12 full drawings, which means I'll probably have them sketched out so that you all don't just sit there wasting time with me just trying to figure out the composition, because nobody wants to see that. That's boring. It would be interesting to me, to another artist maybe, but for most people, me just sitting here trying to figure out the composition I want isn't fun. But the announcement I want to make while this is setting up and I just messed that up too right there. Okay, let me fix that real quick. I don't even know how I messed that up. Oh, I probably hit it with my paper towel while I was drying up the corner. So I want to make my announcement real quick while that's setting up and drying. And I'm pretty excited about it. Let me grab some cards here. So for a while now, I have been doing these Minotaur color comps, and I've only ever sold one. These, anybody who knows me knows the Minotaur are my baby. I have a game that is based on Minotaur. It's a game I designed as a module to go with Dungeons and Dragons. It's called Lords of the Labyrinth. And I also have designed over 100 different Minotaur. And I started doing these color comps to do full paintings, 9x12 paintings. And so I have a stack of these color comps that I've never sold, never auctioned off. I've only done one, whether it's a painting, sketch, a full painting, or a color comp. I've only ever sold one because these are my babies. And coming up in about maybe 2 weeks, let's say, before the end of February, I'm going to start selling and auctioning off the color comps. It's going to be really hard to let these go, but isn't that the point of doing the artwork in the first place, is to share them with the world and not let them get dusty? But my children, my babies, I'm going to start auctioning off and selling in a few weeks. Now, the 9x12s, not yet. The 9x12 drawings and paintings, not yet. But the color comps, these are 6x8, fully painted. I'm going to start auctioning them off. First time ever. So I'm looking forward to it because I'm ready to share with the world. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start getting them out there. And the ones that you see are also going to become full 9x12 paintings. And as you know, the 9x12 paintings, I go a lot more detail in. But I do want to start sharing some of these with the world. All right, so here's what my palette looks like now. And we're going to try to get this guy painted in 30 minutes and then get another one done. So let's do a time hack real quick. 9:40, 9:39, 9:40. Because this one doesn't have a lot of detail, and I know what I really want to do is just work on blending, which is why I picked this one. So that's what we're going to try to do. And I'm going to try to find the right brush because that's going to be the key to getting it done. Do you all have any questions or any topics? So normally I would have a music or television show or movie in the background, and I can't do it because I record these shows, I put them on my YouTube channel, and then YouTube has been telling me that I got copyright infringements on the audio, and so they're blocking the videos. And I'm like, oh God. So I actually have The Hobbit on in the background with the volume turned all the way down so that YouTube can't pick it up and, doesn't ban me for copyright infringement. Even though I'm not showing the movie, I guess the sound alone is, enough to get me beat up, which is fine. I get it. I'm not sore at them. I'm just like, come on. So we got to go with conversations. What are the topics of the day, of the week? What do we want to talk about today? So like I said, today I want to practice some blending techniques that I've been working on. And I've been really precious with some of the color comps because I've been scared. I'll be completely honest. I've been like, man, I don't know if I want to mess it up. And the whole point of the color comp is not to try to necessarily do a full blown finished painting, but to see if the colors work together, to see if the composition works, to see um, if things just are just going to look good before you invest a lot of time into doing a full 9 by 12. And so as you can see, and since I would say over the past couple of months, I have several dozen paintings under my belt now. There's really no reason for me to be apprehensive about what I'm doing, which after I started doing these live, that's what it was. I was doing them live, and so I'm like, "Ooh, are you all gonna want to like it and see it and blah blah blah?" When the truth is, whether anybody was watching or not, I would be doing it. So doesn't it make sense to just do it on the show and record it and put it on my YouTube channel? It just makes sense to do that regardless, since that was the whole purpose in the first place, is just to, we call it putting in the mileage, getting the mileage in so that you get better. I'm sure people have heard that term before, put in the mileage uh, and grow. So now I'm at the point where I know the paints I like, I know the brushes I like. I've got most of the major techniques in my arsenal. I'm not going to say I have them down pat, but I know the techniques that I like to use, and I'm getting better at them each painting. And so I'm like, okay, let's just start painting. Let's see if the color works, because the color comps don't always work, and um, I love it when they look great, but I also love it when they're just not quite what I wanted, because I go back and look at them and I go, I know exactly what I need to do to change that color. If the color palette is ugly and I just go, ooh, those colors just don't work together, I'm not going to do that. I figured that out. And then also, if the colors do work, but maybe I just have them in the wrong areas, I learned that. Or if the colors don't work, but the composition works, there's a lot to learn just by doing these color comps. And so the more of them I do, the better it is. But if I'm trying to be precious with them and, put in, hours into these things, that defeats the whole purpose, basically, is what I'm saying. It defeats the purpose of doing it if I'm not going to do it for what it is. These aren't supposed to be finished paintings. They were never intended to be finished paintings, so I shouldn't treat them like they're finished paintings. They're color comps, and they can look good. They can look professional, and they can even be worthy of auctioning off. But there's no intent for these to be $100 mini paintings or $300-400 mini paintings. That's just not the goal of them. Whereas when I get to the 9x12s, that's when I may spend several weeks on them. So here is the first color lay down, and the background's still a little wet, which is what I like, because it's one of the things I'm working on, is layering on that on top of the wet background, wet on wet, because I want to see how easy it is to blend when I'm doing it. So I'm using a little bit thinner mix right now than I would normally use, because I want to see with the next color how well and smooth I can make the blends by keeping everything wet as long as possible. All right, so now I'm going to go with a darker. I'm going to add just a little bit of black to this and a little bit more red, and adding and start adding in some of those deeper shadows. And I don't normally I would, so it's, if I was doing pen and ink, or even or Saturday when I'm working the pen and inks, I'll go deep blacks first. I'll kind of spot out where I want those nice deep dark blacks to add volume to the drawings first. And painting is a lot like that as well. Sometimes it's, take it nice and slow and easy, and sometimes it's, go deep and dark fast. On this one, I'm not doing it. I'm just going slightly down because I wanted to establish the main color first. Some people like to work light to dark or dark to light. A lot of times I'll go with the deep darks first, just because I'm used to doing it in my pen and ink sketches. But for this particular occasion, like I said, I'm experimenting with some wet on wet, because I'm trying to get a feel on how the gradients, how smooth I can make the transition from different colors. So that's what I'm working on tonight. And already, to be honest, I'm kind of digging the palette. I think these two colors look good together, if I don't say so myself. Yeah, depending on who you study under, they say go light to dark or dark to light. And also, I'll say it depends on the medium that you use. So if you're using something that doesn't cover, you definitely want to go light to dark, because if you're using watercolor and you put down a deep color, that's it. You can't go lighter. It's done. If you're using oils or acrylics, you can paint over a dark color with a light color. And then with gouache, because even though it's a water based, it has a good opacity. So you can go, you know, dark to light. Just have to let it dry. And it also depends on the type of wash you're using. If you're using acrylic wash, once it dries, you can go on top of it, no problem. If you're using a illustrative wash, which is what I use, it can reactivate with water. So you can go over it as long as you don't try to go over it too much, because it'll reactivate the paint underneath it with that water, and then you'll get mud, and you don't want mud. Um, Nobody wants muddy paintings, unless, of course, you're painting mud. Suppose you're really painting mud, right? I mean, it's a farm scene and you got some pigs and you need to paint mud. Maybe you really want to paint mud. So yes, if I'm using markers, I will be careful about going light to dark because you know, like we just talked about, you can't go back. I shouldn't say you can't. You can. There's you can go over it with a white mark, a white opacity marker. I use Poscas. You can go, so you can't. It just, if you do it, you're making your life more difficult than it has to be, right? So yeah, if you're doing illustration with markers, you want to be a little bit careful about going light to dark. When I'm using the pen and ink and I'm using the markers, which I'll be doing, painting TMT Ronin this weekend, you'll see I don't go light to dark or dark to light on that. How I actually do it, and this is kind of weird maybe, I have to fill it out because if I get to a point where I have to stop for a reason, because sometimes life just happens and you got to stop, I like to be able to know where I left off, that it's not just, it doesn't look great. If it looks weird and I'm like, oh, why did I leave it like that? It bugs me, it bothers me. And so I try not to do that. And that's just a quirk about me. I hate going back to a painting and the end of my mind, I'm like, why did I leave it like that? And it makes me feel bad and sad because it's like my art's like, why did you leave me like this? You don't love me anymore. And I'm like, I do. I don't know why I left you. It was an emergency. All right. Now I'm going to add some white. I'm going to get some highlights in there. One of the other things that I've learned recently is stop being stingy with the paint. Nothing's worse than you're working on a painting and you mix a color that you really like and then you run out of it. And then you're like, well, damn. Because when you try to mix it again, it's just not going to be the same. Sometimes that's good because you like the new color that you mixed, you like better, or it works better. But sometimes you really want that consistency of the paint, of the color that you were working on. And when you lose it, it messes up your flow. For me, I shouldn't say everybody. Some people. Now, I have some friends who are, you show them a color and they can mix it up no problem. And they can rinse, what is it? Rinse, reap, and can, what is it? Repeat. I am actually colorblind. I've mentioned it before on these shows. I'm actually colorblind. Um, I see color. I just have a tough time distinguishing some of the colors when they're close to each other, particularly blue, green, red, orange. And so if I leave a color, a lot of times I can't get that color back. And with gouache, it dries differently than when it's wet. So even if I'm looking at it a couple of days later, I'm like, I couldn't make that color again. So here's a little secret on why I use illustrated gouache versus acrylic gouache. Like I said, acrylic gouache, when it dries, it's dry and that's it. And it's on your painting or on your palette. Illustrated gouache reactivates with water. So if I'm working on a painting for a couple of weeks or a month, I don't rinse my palette because if I have a color that I really like, I all I have to do is just add a little water and I can bring that color right back. Now it'll be diluted, but it will be the right color. And as long as I did my block in right, like now I'm trying to block in with the paint thick enough that I'll be able to blend it when I'm ready to. Um, Whereas the wash, like that gray wash, it's pretty much in the paper. It's not going to reactivate too much. Um, and as you can see, even I'm painting on top of it now, and this new paint is not picking it up because it's so thin. The water just soaked into the paper, and I'm good to go. But if I try to paint over this, this is going to reactivate that underneath because it's a lot thicker. Just and these are things I really didn't know until I started working with the median. It's things that people told me and I saw people do, but made no sense to me until I started doing it. It just didn't. How we doing on time? All right. What time did we start? So we're doing pretty good, I think. We might actually make it or close to it, even though I know it doesn't really matter. It's a personal goal. It's not like the stream shuts down and they kick me off. It's just a personal goal for me, like I said, to not try to do these color comps in a way that takes, 75 hours. I'm just doing it to see, hey, these colors look nice together. I think I can do a bigger painting with that color palette, and these colors will be in the right place. I do have an example of, I did a nice painting, color comp, 6x8, just like this, and the color palette looks great. But not if, because I'm going to make it a full painting. And I've already decided that some of the areas I put colors, I'm going to change when I do the larger painting, which I wouldn't have known until after if I had just went straight to a big painting. But I have also been going to big paintings a lot lately. I just did a Gorgon Medusa without a color comp, and it came out beautifully, if I must say so myself. And I think I did 3 or 4 sessions of it here on the Whatnot show. And because I didn't do color comp, there's some areas that I had to do several times just to get it the way I wanted it. Whereas if I had done the color comp, I would have not wasted as much paint because I would have done it on a smaller scale. So when I went to the bigger piece, I would have known exactly what I wanted it to look like. Just looking at this piece right now so far, I can tell you that I like the way these colors are working together. I really do. And with the Zorn palette, the limited palette, there's still so much you can do by just adding a little bit of two colors, a little bit of black, a little bit of white, it still gives you a enormous range of values that you can use. And so each of these colors, I could make a little bit darker, I could make a little bit lighter, but I do like this this mixture. I think it looks pretty good. And I am almost finished. How we doing? We're coming up on 20 minutes. So this color here, I want to kind of mix it a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. I want that in between color between those two. And so that's coming out pretty good. The teeth and the horns are going to be a little bit lighter. Okay, so that came out pretty good. And for the weapon, I'm going to go with what kind of weapon is that? That's a sword. So I'm going to go with a lighter gray steel color. And then I'm going to lighten that up just a little bit more. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to add a lot more white to that and use that for the horns and the teeth. But I'm not going to use pure white. And that's another tricky part about painting and marker use, right? So when I'm doing pen and ink, or when you're doing pen and ink, you just got black and white to do. I'm going to go ahead and turn this a little bit. And you're at the extreme edges of the values, right? When you add in colors, it gives you a much different value range, gives you some flexibility in things you can do. So, but then you have to be very careful with pure white and pure black, because if you're doing color, once you go pure black, pure white, that's it. You can't go any lighter. You can't go any darker. So one of the things I've done in using markers on my marker drawings, sometimes I'll pull out the darkest color that I want to use and the lightest color that I want to use. And that was something that I learned while I was studying concept art. And I studied concept art, and I'm planning to take more classes. Eventually, I would like to do some work in TV and movies. That's one of my goals. But if you're interested in concept art, working in games or movies or TV, I would highly recommend you check out CGMA for really good, affordable classes. But digital, doing a lot of digital work. One of the things that I learned to do through them was to build the color palette digitally, put it off to the side, and then, but always decide on what's the darkest value you're going to use and what's the lightest value you're going to use. And then by doing that, if you never go pure white or pure black, when you're at that point where you're almost finished and you're like, man, I just want to add a little pizzazz, a little punch, you have white and black available to you. So you can add white highlights or deep dark blacks to really push shadows and volume. If you use the black and white in your color palette, well, there's nowhere to go. That's it. So this gray that I'm using for the horns and the teeth is not pure white. It's a gray. It may not look like it, but again, I'm colorblind, so I don't know what you all see. Because what people usually tell me is that the colors I pick have a lot more contrast than I think they do, because I'm pushing it so hard so that I can actually see the contrast. The people who are not colorblind, they're like, yeah, I see it, no problem. I don't know what you're talking about. And I go, I don't know what I'm talking about either. How we doing on time? 5 more minutes for 30, and we're going to make it. We are going to make it in some way, shape, or form. And that's what I want to do with these color comps. Finish the block in and the preliminary blending in 30 minutes. Let it dry. And if I like it, off camera, I'll take about another 15 minutes to kind of punch it up, make it look sharp, and then, make it available for sale or for auction. And for the handle of the sword, I'm just going to go with red. Cadmium red. And I'm going to have a little bit of black on one part of it. The other thing, which is really cool, that I might experiment with this one on, is once this dries, I can go, and I shouldn't say experiment with it, because a lot of my arcane pictures on the 9x12 full illustrations that I do, I use this technique. I'll paint the block in, and then I'll go back on top of it with pen and ink and marker. Take it easy. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. But I'll take the I'll do this block in, but then I'll finish it with pen and ink and marker, which I have a little bit more control over. And I like doing mixed media. I think it adds a lot of punch to a piece. And I think that came out pretty good. And we got 2 minutes left. So with that 2 minutes, I'm going to try to do a little bit of blending. I like the color palette. I like the color selection for the different areas. I think the arm, I might have done something a little bit different with. So here is where it gets a little tricky, is blending. So if I do it right, I can push one color into the next and kind of soften that transition so that when it dries, it's a little bit more blended than it normally would be, like this. And the trick is using the right amount of water to get that blend And that's the part I really need to work on, is that right amount of water to get the right blend that I want. Lartman 9, hey, how's it going? I'm just working on, it's been a while since I did some Minotaur, so I wanted to do that tonight. And I'm just working on some color comps, and I wanted to see if I could get one done in 30 minutes. And this one, we just hit the 30-minute mark at 10:10. We hit the 30-minute mark exactly. And that's our basic color comp for this Minotaur. And I think I'm going to let it dry and do one more quick one. How are you doing tonight? So I just want to try a few blends in a few areas. And when it dries, it'll kind of give me an idea of if my technique is getting better, worse, indifferent. Because sometimes I surprise myself at the blends when they dry. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that didn't come out very nice. But sometimes I'm like, ooh, that came out beautifully. On the Pegasus that I just did, which people can see, there were some blends on the neck that came out just perfect, just the way I wanted them to. I was very happy with them. All right. But this one is, we're going to call it done for tonight, because, for this piece, I should say, not for tonight. We're going to call this piece done, and we're going to do one more quick color comp. I want this one to dry a little bit, and then I want to try some more techniques on it. But I've got a few other ones sketched out that I want to try to do a quick color comp on. And I do like this color palette. I think the lights and the darks are in the right places. If I decided to go with a full 9x12 painting of this, I think this would be a good roadmap to what I want it to do. For the background, I might, do a jagged vignette and kind of finish it off that way. This is one I started a while back, and I think I'm going to knock that one out real quick since it already has a wash on the background. And I don't need to do the wash on this one. I'm going to let this one dry. And I'm going to knock this one out real quick. And this one has the yellow wash background on it. I've already got kind of the layout of where I want color separation. And I've got some good mix of lights and darks on my color palette, my color palette already. What does my palette look like right now? I've got my yellow ochre, cad red, black and white. That's all I'm using. And just blending different colors, different values, different tones, and coming up with some interesting stuff. So on this one, I'm going to go with a much deeper mixture to start off with. And I'm going to try to really separate to add volume and depth. I shouldn't say volume. Yeah, to add volume as in shape to this piece right off the bat. So for example, underneath the neck, I know that I want that to be dark. And this is not pure black. This is a black mixed with more red, less yellow. And so it's more of a brownish. So if I wanted to, I could come back with a pure black and I could still get, I would still have some place to go even deeper. And this is going to dry a little bit lighter than what I'm painting it anyway. So that's cool. And I think this one is, so let's do a time hack real quick. We're going to call it 10:15, even though I'm a minute. Yeah, 10:15 start time. And we're going to see if we can knock this one out in 15, 20 minutes. So I'm just going to spot some areas that I think would be a nice dark color to start off with. And it feels good doing these color comps again, especially for my Minotaur. You know, I feel like I left them hanging for so many weeks and they were like, you don't love me anymore. And, but what really one of the main goals of me not doing Minotaur for a while was I did a portfolio purge a couple of weeks ago. And then I also looked at my professional portfolio and I wanted to add some new pieces to my professional portfolio. So I did a Pegasus, I did a Gorgon, I'm working on a Chimera, and I just want to make sure, you know, when people look at my stuff, they go, oh, he's not a one trick pony. He just doesn't do just Minotaur. He does fantasy creatures. That's really the goal is because the reason I do so many Minotaur is because of the game I developed. It's called Lords of the Labyrinth, and it is an expansion to Dungeons and Dragons. And it's been out for a couple of years. People have been playing it and enjoying it, so I'm very appreciative of that. But also this year, it can also be played as a standalone game. But this year, what I'm doing is I am making it a deliberate standalone game, and I'm adding game mechanics to it. And so I've been developing a lot more Minotaur. And that's why I've been focusing on it because in the game book, Lords of the Labyrinth is uh, based completely on the hunt for the Minotaur and finding their labyrinth of treasure. So I needed lots of Minotaur in the game. And that's what it was pretty much based on. And so for this, I needed a lot of new Minotaur for the game release of 2024. The original game that was released, I think I only had maybe 2 or 3 colored pieces, and I wanted a lot more colored pieces for the release this year. And that was the genesis behind doing so many different Minotaur, is to make sure I had enough for the game, which I do now, but I still love them. They're still my favorite creature character of all time. And so I'm always going to do them. What's really interesting too, and I want to make all of this, I want to vignette that in a dark. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with this side because I'm going to want to touch this side. Gouache dries pretty fast, so I'll be able to touch this side by the time I finish the other side, I think. And hopefully I'm doing okay on time. I could probably use a bigger brush for this area, but that's okay. So what is Lords of the Labyrinth like? let's talk about that for a second. The Minotaur is born from a gift, a gift of Poseidon. Poseidon gifted King Minos a bull, and King Minos' wife fell in love with the bull and slept with the bull and had a baby with the bull and birthed a Minotaur. For Greek mythology, it's funny how a lot of the creatures come to be. Like the Pegasus comes from Medusa when she got her head cut off. It's like, what? Medusa is comes from the curse Athena put on her for sleeping with her man. So Medusa thought she was more, or I don't know if she thought it or she said it, or this is something. Athena was considered, her beauty was considered the best of all. And then so by Medusa sleeping with her man, it's like, oh, what? Oh, hell no. And she cursed her to be a Gorgon, her and her sisters. And so now if men look at her, they turn to stone. Can you imagine if that was like a modern day thing? A woman can curse you, and then anytime another man looks at you, they turn to stone. That would just be like a horrible reality to live in, wouldn't it? Oh, shoot. I'm not sure if I want to. Yeah, I do. Once I did this color as the vignette, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know what that looks like. It's supposed to be him raising his arms, but I don't know if that's exactly what it looks like. But that's why we do the color comps. We do the color comp to see if we like the composition and the colors before we invest a lot of time in a big major painting. And then we decide we don't like it. But then we've invested so much into it. It's like, do I really want to, go there now? All right. So now we're going to go with the main color. And for this one, we're going to go with a little more red. So I love experimenting with the different paints too. Holbein and the Winsor Newton have very different properties. So the Holbein is nice and creamy. I really do like it. I like it a lot. But it kind of sets up and lumps up a lot quicker than I would like for it to. The Winsor Newton probably has the best opacity, and it sets up really fast. And I don't always work as fast as I should. And even now, I'm looking at my palette, and some of the paint's drying too fast on me. But that's why a wet palette comes in handy sometime, especially working with watercolor and gouache, where you can keep the paint a little bit wet, a little bit longer, and it gives you time to work out what you're trying to do. On these smaller color comps, not as big of a problem. On some of the larger pieces where it takes a while to get some coverage, I have to plan out my work a little bit more. And that's just me. Different artists have different experiences. For me, planning out the project when it comes to the bigger projects is very important. I've also been experimenting with doing the color comps with marker and pen and ink, and then going into a painting. The only difference being the composition may be cool, even the color palette might be cool, but then I have to kind of find the color mixture with the paint. When I do the color comp, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what color mixture that is. But if I use a marker or digital, when it's time to do the painting, I'm like, I don't really know what combination of colors make that color. And that's the issue I have, because they don't, when I'm using markers or a digital media, I'm not truly mixing. And so I'm guessing once I come to the paint on what I think those colors could be. Now I can look at the color wheel on a digital canvas, and it'll tell me, you know, mix, you know, this level of red, this level of green, this yellow or blue, whatever. But that's totally different than squeezing out paint from a tube. Totally different. And this one is not going as fast as I thought it was going to go. Even though there's a lot, I've only changed colors once. I'm just not making, unless I'm just being too hard on myself. Well, it's only been 10 minutes. Maybe I'm working faster than I thought I was. I'm not, I'm worried about the time on this one. Because again, the goal is to be able to do these in 15 to 20 minutes, no more than 30 for sure, so that I can do more of them and experiment more and figure out exactly what I want those colors to be, and then invest time in a big painting. So that's the goal. And I think I'm doing pretty good. I've learned a lot of these techniques through the Watts Atelier online courses. Can't say enough good things about them. No sponsorship or anything like that. I just like promoting things that have helped me out. So the Watts Atelier online, the CGMA online, just fantastic programs. And they both have professional instructors. So that's what, I mean, it makes it even better is you get that feedback from a pro. For me, and again, I'm just giving you my experience. For me, feedback is the game changer. Having someone look at it and give me, a professional critique on things to do better, change, whatnot, I can apply that. Doing it myself and then trying to self correct, I can do it, but sometimes it just takes more cycles to get there. And that can be fun too, because I do those type of programs. I do the self-paced programs, and I do the instructor-led programs. Um, Six one, half dozen the other. Just depends on time and money, to be honest. An instructor-led program is always going to be more than a self-paced program. The good thing about the self-paced programs are you usually have access to the videos for an extended period of time. And if time is not your friend, if you don't have the time to stay on course, on schedule for an instructor-led course, it works good. It works out well to just have the videos available, the tutorials available to you. You work at your own pace, and then maybe you have a friend, or some people in other areas who can give you a reasonable, realistic critique. They may not be able to help you on how to fix A, B, C, D, but they can at least get you on the right path of this looks right, this doesn't look right. Some of the best advice I ever heard in my life came from the comic side. Joe Kubert and Frank Cho. I've heard them both say it. I don't know if Frank Cho got it from Joe Kubert or not, but and I think they both got it from another artist, another fine artist from a long time ago. I don't know who originally said it. I say all that to say that. I said all that to say I'm not sure where the original statement came from. I'm just telling you where I heard it from was Joe Kubert and Frank Cho. And it was simply, if it looks right, it's right. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. You don't have to put brain surgery into it or anything else. If it looks right, it's right. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. And I'm like, wow, it doesn't get any simpler than that. Because sometimes when you're doing illustration, you have to push things a little bit further for them to look right. So with foreshortening, for example, when you look at the comic books and the superhero is lunging out at you and there's a big hand right in your face or a big foot right in your face, and then they get smaller and smaller as they go back on the page. It's called perspective, foreshortening. Well, it's probably not anatomically correct, but if you did it anatomically correct, one, you would lose some of the impact that you're trying to get, and two, it wouldn't necessarily look right. And so you use that forced perspective, forced foreshortening, and then it looks right. It looks good. It looks cool. And if it looks right, it's right. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. And when it comes to some pieces, you never know what somebody is going to love and what somebody's not, especially when it comes to fantasy art, things that don't even exist. So let's take a Pegasus, for example. There is no such thing as a winged horse. So if someone says that's not how wings go on a horse, as opposed to that's not what a horse, if someone's like, that's not what a horse head looks like, or that's not what a horse hoof looks like, well, they can tell you that because they see them all the time. But if someone says that's not how wings go on a horse, well, what are you basing that off of? Because I don't think anybody can tell you legitimately how wings look that go on a horse. It's like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but what are you basing that off of? Because I don't think anybody's ever seen wings on a horse. So you might be right. But there's really nothing that you're basing that off of. It's your perception. It's your take on what it would look like versus everybody else's. But if it looks right, if you do the wings in a way that look right and believable, and it doesn't draw people out of why does that look funky, then it's cool. If it looks right, it's right. And when I'm doing Minotaur, that's kind of how I view it. It's like, what am I really trying to portray here? Everyone knows what a Minotaur is, but of course, no one's ever seen one. So it'd be very hard for someone to tell me that's wrong, but they know what a human body looks like. They know what a bull head looks like. So those parts, they can say, that's not right easily, right? They can say that's not right. That's not what a bull head looks like. That's not what a human leg looks like. But when I combine the two, how the head sits on the shoulders of a human being, no one's ever seen that. So my interpretation just has to look right. It doesn't have to be correct, because there is no correct, because there is no way to go to the museum or go to the zoo and see a minotaur. I wish there was, because I can tell you, I would be one of the first ones to do that with my love of minotaur. How are we doing on time here? Ooh, this one is, I'm definitely, I don't know if it's because I'm covering so much real estate on this one. This is a big painting. I'm definitely feeling rushed, even though there's less colors, there's less uh, boxing in per se. I don't know. I just feel like I'm rushing. And this is an easier one. Maybe it's just because it's so big. And maybe I'm not using the right brush. Maybe I should have used a bigger brush to get those larger spots in the first place. That could be it. It could be I brought this on myself. And this one started at 10:15. And we really want to try to be done by 10:45. I'm not going to make it. The first one, I only went about 2 minutes over. And here's the crazy thing. I used to spend an hour on these just a few months ago. I was spending an hour on these color comps, 6x8. Now I'm spending 30, 40 minutes. So just the fact of doing them, getting better and more comfortable with the paint, is paying off just by doing them. Not doing anything crazy different, just putting in the work, putting in the cycles, and making it happen. Ooh, I forgot to clean off my brush before I dipped it on this side. But I'm coming up with a pretty cool color that I think I'm going to use. Again, I want to thank everybody for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. If there's any questions or topics for conversation, please let me know. Otherwise, I would just be rambling to myself, passing the time as I do this, because I like to post these videos on YouTube. And so I think having some volume of conversation is a good thing. And the goal is to get these down to 15 minutes. I'm at about 30, 40 minutes, down from an hour from what it used to be. I think when I started doing these color comps, I was just a little bit too timid about what I wanted them to be. And now I know exactly what I want out of them. And so I'm a little bit quicker at knocking them out. Now this color palette, I'm kind of digging it. I uh I like the darker brown red. I think if I were to make this a full painting, I may go with a burnt sienna as part of the color palette. The other thing I'm starting to notice is that I like a lot of the jagged look on some of these as opposed to the smooth airbrush look. I like that jagged painted look. I think that some people call it paint early style, um, but this isn't necessarily paint early style. What I'm doing it naturally comes off as paint early style because I'm painting it. I don't have to force the style, but because I'm not trying to do nice crisp edges from one color to another, and I'm also not trying to get an airbrush effect between colors. It gives me that nice hard jagged edge that on the Minotaur looks pretty good, uh, as opposed to when I was working the Gorgon, which is a female. Maybe I didn't want that as much. The jaggedness. I wanted more of a smoother look. So I put a lot of different colors closer together, and that made it a little bit softer. And that's one way when you're painting with gouache is putting values closer together, more values closer together, almost simulates the airbrush effect and gives you nice, smooth transitions and gradients. That's the word I was looking for. It gives you nice, smooth gradients. And I'm just passing on things. I'm not instructing or tutorialing. Is that a word? Tutoring. I'm passing on things that I'm learning or have learned in my art practice. Because I know there are artists who watch this, and um, and I appreciate it. And I remember when I was watching a lot of artists, I'm always like, you know, very intrigued about what they're learning, what they're doing. And so that's what I'm trying to do here is just pass on some of the things that I've learned over these past months and years, uh, and encourage people to get out and work with gouache. I was encouraged to do it by an instructor because I really liked watercolor. And then once I got into it, I was like, oh, I'm loving this. And so now those teeth look so ugly. Oh, he looks like a doofus. Let me see if I can fix that up just a little bit. And so now what I'm trying to do is, pass it on and encourage people to get out and try it. It's a lot of fun. I will say that. It's a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I'm thoroughly enjoying working with gouache. Thoroughly. It is, I used many decades ago, I did oil painting and I loved it. I have lots of oil paintings. I sold my first oil painting, I think, when I was 14, 15 years old. And then when I got back into painting, because I stopped for a long time, I didn't want to do oil painting. There's a lot of time for setup and cleanup, and I just honestly did not want to invest that time. So I started doing watercolor. And there's only so much you can do with watercolor because of the opacity of it. I mean, you you can't go over, it doesn't cover up. So what you put down is basically it. You're just working with washes, light and dark washes, different value or different not different values, different colors and tones. Well, gouache, you can water it down to get the watercolor effect, like the background I have here, or you can leave it a little bit thicker and you can go over it. Like I can go over this deepest, darkest color that I have here with a lighter color, just like oils and acrylics. And at the end of the day, when it's time to clean up, I take my palette, I put it in my laundry sink, run water over it, and I'm done. That's it. Or if I want to, I don't clean the palette at all and I reuse some of the colors on the next painting or to touch up this painting because all I have to do is reactivate the colors with a little bit of water because I use illustrated wash. I don't use the acrylic wash, and and I can repaint. And it encourages me to paint more, um, which is the problem I had with oils. If I wasn't in the mood to do an oil painting, then I wouldn't do an oil painting. That's just the way it was. I don't have to be in the mood to work with gouache. I just sit down and paint. And when I'm done, I can just stop. I don't have to clean the palette. I do clean my brushes. I take care of my brushes, even though I have a mixture of expensive brushes and cheap brushes. I take care of them all the same. Um, because even though gouache, I can wash it out of the brush. I don't it's not that hard to just rinse the brushes out at the end of the day. If I want to just leave them soaking in water, I can do that. It's not really great for the brush, but I can do it if it's just one night. Like tonight, after I finish this in a few minutes, if I wanted to, I could just stop and leave, dunk these in water and take care of it tomorrow. Um, but there's no need to really. It doesn't take long to wash out. All that to say what? To say that I love working with gouache. That's the moral of the story, I guess. Is I just enjoy working with gouache, um, and it works great for mixed media, which I also enjoy. I love mixing watercolor gouache with marker and then pen and ink. Um, there's a few paintings that I have where I mixed. Um, well, I'll do the block in like this, and then I'll come back over it with pen and ink comic style, and it just looks so cool. It looks really nice, and it gives it a different flavor. It gives it a different mood, and it's pretty sharp. I enjoy it. This weekend, as I finish this painting up, because I'm almost done with it. How we doing on time? I passed the 30-minute mark, but not by too much. This one took longer than I thought it would. I think just because of the size of it. There's a lot of real estate to paint here, and I probably should have used a bigger brush for some of these bigger areas instead of this smaller brush. I think that's what messed me up time-wise. Um, but this weekend, so in addition to doing paintings, I do sketch cards, I do comics, And this weekend, I am going to be doing 9x12 pen and ink and marker sketches of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to start off with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ronin. And I think it's going to be cool. I know it's going to be fun. It's something I haven't done. And so I'm looking forward to that piece of it just because I haven't done it. And I always enjoy doing things I haven't done because one, it makes me research to see what I want to do. And then it usually makes me grow some skills. So, for example, I actually don't know what a turtle looks like. If someone said, "Hey, can you draw me a turtle?" I'd be like, give me a second. Which is funny because I live in Florida and I see turtles all the time. So I know what a turtle looks like. But if someone just say, "Hey, can you draw me a quick turtle?" I'd go, "No, I can't actually." So by doing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, I do have to kind of understand what a turtle looks like if I want it to be believable. And then I got to come up with a cool turtle pose, which I don't think I've ever done. I've never come up with a cool turtle pose. I remember when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, and like everybody else, I was getting requests to draw. Can you draw me Raphael? Whatever. And I was like, sure, no problem. Um, but I don't think I've ever it's been so long since I even thought about doing Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it'll be interesting to say the least. But I'm looking forward to it. So on Sketch Cards Saturday night, we're actually going to do some 9x12 full illustrations, starting off with TMT Ronin. And this guy's bucktooth, hasn't he? My bucktooth Minotaur. You like, don't make me come over there. But that's okay. Got two more colors, and then we're gonna call the ball on this one. For anybody that stopped by, I appreciate the viewership. I really do. For several reasons. One of the reasons is because I would be doing this anyway. So it's nice to have people stop by and check me out, even if it's just for a second. Even I know I personally, before I go to bed, I'm not a TikTok person, but I will come on whatnot and just kind of doom scroll and see, what people are doing, what kind of talents are out there. I really enjoy it. I'm like, oh man, this is pretty cool. Oh wow, check out this person. So I know a lot of times that's what people are doing. They're just like scrolling through, seeing what people are doing, and then they take off, and it doesn't offend me at all. I thank you for stopping by to just check out what I'm up to. I really do appreciate it. And for people who hang out and chat, even better, because then I'm just not talking to myself, and I love talking about movies and comics. I'm always down to talk about movies and comics. I don't know which I love more, unless we're talking comic movies. Um, I still got to do the bat too. Haven't done that. And one more color here, and then a color for the club. I'm not sure if you all can see the colors on this. How does it look for anybody out there? Is it a pretty decent portrayal of the Minotaur there? Is it looking kind of dope? Save the world, get the girl, and try to look dope while you're doing it. Right? From Triple X. All right. I think this will be decent color. Personally, I do like this color palette. I wasn't real sure about it at first. And it's only two colors: yellow ochre, cadmium red, and then black and white. And then I just mix those four elements together to get these different values and tones. And I'm actually kind of digging this color palette. It looks pretty cool in my book. I don't know if somebody out there can give me a thumbs up on what they're seeing, but I definitely am digging it. And this one, what are we doing time-wise? This one took a lot longer than I thought it was. Oh my God. What am I doing? But I think it's just because it's big. It's a bigger piece than I thought it was. And I wasted time with a small brush. So I think I could do this piece quicker if I had planned a little bit better. I only messed up one brush tonight. Normally I set up a lot more brushes, and I just didn't do that. And I'm going to use this to kind of fix the teeth a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. Oh yeah, that's a little bit better. And then I'm just going to use this same color for the club. Save some time and real estate. That's a good brown. And we'll still finish this piece in less than an hour. The first one we did in about, I'm going to call it 40 minutes. And this one we're done in 45 minutes. So 2023, 6x8 color comp took an hour. 2024, we're down to 40 minutes. And I think we can do better. Next week, I don't know if I'm going to do color comps or work on a new painting for Merlin the Magician. That's the next full painting that I'll be working on. And so just depending on how I feel next week, we'll do Merlin or we'll do more color comps. This actually came out pretty nice. I'm happy with it. So let's look and see what we did tonight. We'll do this, we'll get this set up for the camera. Come on, don't mess up. Get a nice thumbnail shot right there. 2 Minotaur in about an hour and a half, so I'm not upset at that. I do like this color combination. It came out a lot better than I thought it would. I don't necessarily like the composition. The goal was to kind of make it look like he's raising his arms, but I think the way I vignetted it, it didn't come out just the way I wanted it. So doing this again, I would probably change the pose up a little bit, make it more defined in the arms, and maybe shrink it a little bit to add in more of the chest. But the color palette itself, I'm really digging it. This one here, I like it as well. I like the colors. This is more of a high key. This is more of a low key as far as color. On this one, I would probably, I don't know. I think I would just maybe add in some more shadow or something. So those are our two for tonight. We get a good thumbnail shot in. Thanks everybody for stopping by. We just did a couple of color comps for tonight. No finished pieces or anything, but looking forward to just, getting in some more mileage and getting some color palettes together. What does our palette look like at the end of the night? Again, we used yellow ochre, cad red, white and black, and just mixing those two colors together with some blacks and whites gets different tones, and it came out nice. I have no complaints. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. This video will be up on YouTube to review, and if you have questions or requests that you'd like to see me do, on Thursday I do fantasy art, and on Saturday I do comic and pop culture art. Just let me know. Thanks again. Take care. Peace out.